I'm going away with friends, she said, snapping the suitcase shut. Stop acting like you're my husband. She didn't shout. That was the trick. She spoke like she was reading terms and conditions. I stood at the kitchen island with a mug I wasn't drinking from. The overhead light hummed. The dishwasher clicked through its cycle, patient as a metronome. Our apartment smelled like her heat-styling spray and the lemon soap I always bought because it was cheap, and it worked. Okay, I said. That word landed softer than she expected. I watched it bounce in her eyes like a penny dropped down a long well. She was wearing leggings and an oversized sweatshirt from a charity 5K we did 3 years ago, back when she still asked me to take pictures of her at the finish line like it meant something. Now she moved around me like I was furniture. She rolled the suitcase toward the bedroom. The wheels rattled over a crack in the tile that I'd meant to fix for months. I followed at a distance, not like a puppy, more like a man looking at his own house for the last time. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She threw things in without folding: a white sundress, 2 sets of workout clothes, the red underwear she never wore for me anymore, and a travel perfume she claimed she didn't even like. A bikini, too. In December. We lived 3 hours from the ocean. Her phone buzzed on the bed. She flipped it face down so fast it looked like a reflex, not a choice. "Who's picking you up?" I asked. She shrugged. "A friend." She said it like I was asking what time the mail runs. I didn't ask which friend. I didn't need the name to see the shape of it. The way she kept glancing at her phone. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear whenever it buzzed. The way she had already done her nails, fresh, pale pink, and put on mascara even though she was just driving. That's what betrayal looks like when it's trying to be casual. I leaned in the doorway while she zipped side pockets, checked chargers, tossed in gum. When she went to the bathroom, I stepped closer to the suitcase. The top pocket was half open. I could see the corner of a hotel key sleeve, blank and white. Maybe it was from a past trip. Maybe it was new. It didn't matter. The story was already written. I pulled a plain envelope from the back of the kitchen drawer. No logo, no return address. It was thin enough to be ignored. Inside, it was a single card, the kind you get when you open a new bank account, and a note in my handwriting. "If you ever need to reach me, use this number." Not the old one. That was all. No anger, no accusations. Nothing she could screenshot and show her friends to prove I was crazy. I slipped the envelope into the side pocket under the pack of gum. When she came back, she didn't notice. She didn't notice my hands either, because she hadn't been looking at me for weeks. She pulled her suitcase upright and looked around the bedroom like she was checking off a list. "Don't be weird about this," she said. "I won't," I replied. That made her frown. The version of me she was used to would have asked questions, begged for reassurance, tried to fight for a marriage she'd already put on airplane mode. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek, lips cool, nothing in it. Then she picked up her phone, glanced at the screen, and smiled in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. A car horn chirped outside. She didn't even say goodbye. Just, "I'll be back Sunday," like she was talking to a landlord. The door clicked shut behind her. Silence filled the apartment and took off its coat like it owned the place. I stood there and listened to the elevator swallow her. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I already knew what I was going to do. I'd known since the first time she asked me to pretend I didn't exist. The only question was timing. Because the thing about a marriage is this: you can survive a lot if you can still trust the schedule. When the schedule breaks, everything else follows. I pulled up the draft email I'd written the night before and never sent. Subject: quick question, can we talk? Recipient: Alyssa Harper. Alyssa was the fiancée of the coworker my wife swore was nothing. I'd learned her name from a holiday card stuck to the office fridge back when my wife still brought work home in her tote bag instead of bringing work home in her eyes. I hovered my finger over the trackpad. Then I hit send. The first time she used the phrase, it sounded like a joke. "Can you act single tonight?" she asked, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, curling her hair. "Just don't hover." It was a Thursday, which meant she said she was meeting the girls, which meant I was supposed to drop her at a club I'd never been inside of and pretend it was normal. I watched the curling iron clamp down on a section of her hair. I watched the steam rise. I watched her face in the mirror, the concentration, the tiny smile she gave herself when she liked what she saw. "Sure," I said. That word again. Easy. Weightless. It didn't mean I didn't care. It meant I was tired of trying to prove I cared. I drove her to the club. The parking lot was a spilled drink of neon and exhaust. People laughed too loud. Bass thumped through the pavement like a second heartbeat. She leaned over the center console to check her lipstick in the mirror. She adjusted her top. She ran her fingers through her hair like she was combing away guilt. She didn't look at me when she said, "Text you later." I watched her get out. Watched her shoulders straighten as soon as she stepped away from the car, like she was taking off a coat. Watched her walk toward the entrance without turning back. Right before she went inside, she paused. It wasn't dramatic. It was small. But I saw it. She turned her head and locked eyes with someone across the entry. A man leaned against the wall near the bouncer, laughing with a friend, hands in his pockets like he owned the night. He wasn't even trying to hide. My wife's mouth twitched, like she'd tasted something sweet. Then she disappeared into the club. I sat there for a full minute with my hands on the steering wheel, feeling stupid in a way that was almost funny. Then I drove home. I didn't rage clean. I didn't throw plates. I didn't call my buddy to complain. I packed. Not everything. Just what mattered. My passport, my work documents, the watch my dad gave me, the shoebox with old photos I couldn't replace, the folder with our lease and insurance paperwork. I loaded it into my trunk like I was moving out of a house that was already on fire. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Her name. "Can you pick me up?" I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I typed, "Still acting single." I didn't block her that night. Blocking is emotional. I wanted quiet, not drama. I turned my phone face down and went to sleep in the guest room. In the morning, she came home smelling like someone else's cologne and club air. She crawled into bed like nothing happened. She kissed my shoulder with lips that tasted like mint gum. "Thanks for last night," she whispered. I didn't answer. She didn't notice. And that's the part people don't tell you. Sometimes the betrayal isn't the affair. It's the way they stop checking whether you're still there. By the time she left for her friend's weekend, I already had a plan so clean it scared me. I'm not a detective. I'm not a hacker. I'm not some movie genius who can break into phones and pull GPS coordinates out of thin air. I manage buildings for a living. Condos, mostly. Leaks, locks, complaints about noise, cameras that never quite cover the right corner, people lying to my face about pets they swear they don't have. You learn patterns. You learn what's missing. You learn that if you want something to fall apart, you don't swing a hammer. You loosen bolts and let gravity do its work. I didn't empty our accounts. I wasn't that stupid. I called a lawyer first. His name was Martin Diaz, a short man with a calm voice and eyes that didn't judge. I found him through a coworker who'd gotten divorced without setting his life on fire. "You can leave," Martin told me, sitting across from me in a small office that smelled like toner and old coffee. "But don't make unilateral moves that look like punishment. Courts don't like punishment." "I don't want punishment," I said. Martin waited. I corrected myself. "I don't want illegal punishment." That got a thin smile. He explained the basics. Document everything. Keep it civil. Protect your credit. Change your direct deposit. Open a new account in your name only. Don't drain joint funds. Don't lock her out if she's on the lease. Don't destroy property. Don't threaten. "Most people mess this up because they want to win the argument," he said. "You want to win the outcome." I nodded like I was taking notes in class. When I left his office, I didn't feel better. I felt awake. That night, I booked a week at a cheap motel off the highway. Nothing fancy, no drama, a place where nobody asked questions. I moved my boxes to a storage unit in daylight, because doing it at night looks like guilt. I took pictures of everything I took, not because I planned to show anyone, but because I wanted a record. A story you can prove is harder to rewrite. My wife texted me a photo from the road, her feet on a dashboard, a caption about girls' weekend vibes. In the reflection of the windshield, I could see a man's hand on the steering wheel, not a girl. I didn't reply. Instead, I called the bank and set up a new checking account. I called payroll and changed my direct deposit. I called the credit bureau and put a temporary freeze on my credit, the way Martin told me to. It took 15 minutes, and a code I wrote down on a sticky note like it was nothing. That's the part that would ruin her later. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because she'd been using our stability like a credit card she assumed would never decline. Late Friday night, Alyssa Harper replied to my email. "Who is this? Why are you emailing me?" No punctuation, just raw confusion. I stared at it for a long time. My finger hovered over the keyboard. I typed, "My name is Evan. I'm married to Lila." I knew the moment I hit send that there was no going back. Not to the marriage, not to the version of myself who believed in second chances. I'd stepped into a different story. Saturday morning, rain turned the city into a gray smear. I drove to Cedar Gate, the condo complex I ran, because people always pick weekends to have emergencies. The lobby was warm and smelled like pine cleaner. The security guard, Roy, nodded at me from behind the desk. "You look tired," Roy said. "New diet," I replied. "It's called stress and bad decisions." He laughed, because Roy had seen worse. I checked the maintenance log, signed off on a plumbing repair, and headed down to the underground garage to look at a broken light fixture. That's where I saw it. A black SUV with a dealership plate frame and a dent on the rear bumper, parked in a resident-only spot. I knew that dent. I'd seen it in my wife's photos. In the background of a selfie she took after work one night, smiling too hard, hair too perfect. The license plate wasn't hidden. He wasn't careful. Maybe he didn't need to be. Maybe he thought I was the kind of man who'd complain and then go back upstairs. I stood there under fluorescent lights and let the noise of the garage fill my ears. Drips, distant engines, the low hum of electricity. This wasn't my apartment. This was my territory. I walked around the SUV. On the passenger seat, a hoodie was tossed like a flag. On the dashboard, a parking pass from another building. I took a photo. Not of anything illegal, just of a car where it didn't belong. Then I did what my job required. I called the tow company Cedar Gate used for unauthorized parking. I gave them the make, model, plate. I filled out the form. I took another photo of the spot number, the signage, the timestamp. Roy came down with a clipboard. "Problem?" he asked. "Someone thinks rules don't apply to them," I said. Roy whistled low. "Tow it." The tow truck arrived in 15 minutes, loud and unapologetic. The driver hooked the SUV with the practiced speed of a man who'd seen every excuse in the book. I watched it lift and roll away like a piece of furniture being hauled out of the wrong apartment. When it was gone, the garage looked emptier than it should have, like a tooth pulled. I went back upstairs and tried to focus on work, but my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello?" A man's voice, sharp with irritation. "Is this Cedar Gate Management?" "Yes." "You towed my car." "Were you parked in a resident-only spot?" I asked. Silence. Then, "I was visiting someone." "That's what visitor parking is for," I said. "Tow company has your vehicle. Their number is on the sign." "You know who I am?" he snapped. I pictured his face from the club, smug, easy, a man who had never been told no in a way that mattered. "I know you were in the wrong spot," I said. He exhaled like he wanted to curse, but remembered he was calling an office. "This is ridiculous," he said. "I agree," I replied. "You should park correctly next time." I hung up before he could recover. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. It felt like turning a key in a lock that had been stuck for months. That afternoon, Alyssa Harper called me. I stepped into an empty stairwell to take it. Her voice was quiet. "Tell me what you know," she said. I leaned against the concrete wall. My breath fogged slightly in the cool air. "I know he's not where he says he is," I told her. "And I know my wife isn't where she says she is." Alyssa didn't cry. Not yet. She asked questions like an accountant. Dates, places, names. I gave her what I had. The email, the holiday card, the SUV photo in my garage, the girls' weekend photo with a man's hand on the wheel. "That's not enough to be sure," she said. "It's enough to be suspicious," I replied. "And I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to look." She swallowed. I could hear it. Then she said something that surprised me. "Meet me tonight," she said. "Public place." "Where?" "There's a diner off Route 9, she said. 9 o'clock. I agreed. When I ended the call, I stared at the stairwell door like it might open into a different life. I realized then that my wife wasn't the only one who'd been acting. I'd been acting married, and I was done. The diner was the kind of place that never updated its decor because the old stuff still worked. Red vinyl booths, a counter with spinning stools, a pie case that glowed like a shrine. Alyssa Harper sat in a booth near the back, a coffee in front of her untouched. She wore a beige coat and had her hair pulled up like she'd done it in a hurry. She looked like someone who'd been told bad news once already in life and learned how to keep breathing. I slid into the booth across from her. She studied me like she was looking for a flaw that would make this easier to dismiss. "You don't look like a liar," she said. "That's not a compliment," I replied. A faint smile flickered and was gone. "His name is Derek," she said. "Derek Mallory. He told me he's been slammed at work," she continued. "Late nights, weekend events. He said he might have to travel." I stared at my hands. I thought about my wife's suitcase, the bikini, the perfume. "He's good at making it sound reasonable," I said. Alyssa's fingers tightened around her mug. "What do you want?" That was the question everyone asks when they're afraid the answer will make them responsible. "I want the truth," I said, "and I want control of my own life again." She stared at me for a long time. The diner's overhead lights buzzed. A waitress refilled water glasses. Somewhere up front, a cook dropped a pan. Finally, Alyssa said, "If you're lying, I will ruin you." "I believe you," I said. She slid her phone across the table. "This is his location sharing," she said. "We share it, for safety." I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. "You don't have to show me," I said. "Just check it when you get home. Check it every time he says he's somewhere." Alyssa pulled the phone back like it was hot. "I already did," she whispered. Her eyes were shiny now. Not tears, just light. "He was in a hotel last month," she said. "Not a work thing. A hotel in the next city over. He said he was at a training." The waitress came by. "More coffee?" Alyssa nodded too fast. When the waitress left, Alyssa leaned forward. "I want to catch him," she said. "Not like hurt him, just see it, so he can't talk his way out." I understood that need, the need for a picture in your head that can't be edited later. "There's a way," I said. Alyssa blinked. "What way?" "We don't chase them," I told her. "We let them come to us." Alyssa's eyebrows knit. "How?" I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folded paper. It was a flyer for Cedar Gate's annual holiday open house, the one the HOA insisted on, even though half the residents complained about the noise. It had date, time, and the promise of free catered food. "I run this building," I said, "and your fiancé parks in my garage like he lives there." Alyssa looked at the flyer. Does he? She asked. I shook my head. Not officially. Alyssa's face tightened. Then where is he going? I let the silence stretch. Then I said, I think he has a key to a unit. Alyssa's coffee finally cooled enough for her to drink. She took a sip and didn't taste it. If he's been using someone's place, she said, voice low, I want to know whose. I met her eyes. So do I. Alyssa nodded once, slow, like she was signing something. Okay, she said. Tell me what you need. I didn't tell her everything, not yet. Not because I didn't trust her, but because the truth is a weapon, and weapons don't get handed out all at once. I said, I need you to keep acting normal. Alyssa laughed, hollow. I don't know if I can. You can, I said. You've been doing it without knowing. When I left the diner, rain had slowed to a mist. The streetlights smeared across the wet road. I sat in my car for a minute and stared at the dark reflection of my own face in the windshield. This was the part where the hero is supposed to feel noble. I didn't feel noble. I felt precise. Sunday night, my wife came back. I wasn't there to greet her. I wasn't waiting on the couch with a speech. I wasn't hiding in the bedroom like a wounded animal. I was at the motel, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching the same local news loop, like it was trying to hypnotize me. At 8:17 p.m., she called. I let it ring. She texted, Where are you? I waited 3 minutes. Then I typed, Out. More dots appeared, then vanished. Another text, Stop being dramatic. I smiled without humor. Dramatic would be what she expected. Tears, anger, me driving to wherever she was and pounding on a door. What I was doing was quiet. At 8:34, she texted again, I got your envelope. I stared at that sentence, that small, plain thing I'd tucked into her bag. I imagined her opening it in a hotel room, maybe with Derek watching, maybe alone in a bathroom with the fan running. I replied, Okay. A minute later, What is this number? I typed, It's the only way to reach me right now. Her response came fast. Why? I didn't answer. At 9:02, she called again. This time I picked up. What is wrong with you? She snapped, her voice already climbing. I kept mine level. Nothing. You're acting, she started. Single? I offered. Silence. I could hear her breathing. I could hear, faintly, traffic behind her, like she was pacing outside our building. You don't get to punish me, she said. I'm not punishing you, I replied. I'm choosing. What does that even mean? She demanded. It means I'm not available for the role you keep handing me, I said. She laughed, sharp. You're being insane. I thought about Martin Diaz and his calm eyes. I thought about the tow truck. I thought about Alyssa's tight grip on a mug. I'm being careful, I said. She lowered her voice, suddenly sweet. Evan, come home. Let's talk. You're making this bigger than it is. There it was. The line, the script. I pictured her weekend, the bikini, the perfume, the friends she never named. Who were you with? I asked. A pause. My friends. Name them, I said. Another pause, longer. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not, I said. I'm asking a simple question. She exhaled hard. I'm not doing this. No, I said. You're not. I am. She hung up. At 9:27, I got a message from Alyssa. It was a photo of Derek's location on her phone, a dot on a map, Cedar Gate, my building. My wife was back in town, yelling at me about being dramatic, while her coworker was in my garage like it was his personal driveway. That was the moment my anger finally showed up, not as a scream, but as clarity. I put on my jacket and grabbed my keys. Cedar Gate's underground garage smelled like damp concrete and tire rubber. The fluorescent lights cast everything in a pale glow that made everybody look guilty. Derek's SUV was back in the same spot, like he was testing me. Roy stood at the security desk with his coffee. You got a problem again? He asked when he saw me. Maybe, I said. If anyone asks, I'm checking a leak. Roy raised an eyebrow. You look like you're checking something else. I walked past him and headed deeper into the garage. I didn't sneak. Sneaking is for people who feel guilty. Derek was standing near the elevator doors, phone to his ear, laughing. He wore a clean coat and expensive shoes, the kind that never touched mud. He looked like a man who believed consequences were for other people. When he saw me, his smile didn't drop right away. It hovered, uncertain, like he was trying to place me. I stopped a few feet away. He lowered his phone. Can I help you? I towed your car yesterday, I said. Recognition hit his eyes, then annoyance. That was you, he said. It was the rules, I replied. But sure, it was me. He looked me up and down. You some kind of wannabe cop? No, I said. I'm the guy whose building you keep treating like a motel. His jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move closer. I just watched him. Your fiancée shares your location, I said softly. For safety? His face flickered. Just for a second. Then he scoffed. My fiancée doesn't... She does, I said. And she's getting curious. That landed. His eyes sharpened. Who are you? He asked. I gave him my name. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. Oh, he said, and the word came out like he'd stepped on something. You're her husband. That's right, I said. He recovered fast, because men like him practice recovery the way some people practice guitar chords. He smiled. Listen, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I nodded. There has. He spread his hands. Lila and I work together. We're friends. That's it. In the distance, an elevator dinged. I didn't look away from him. Friends don't pack bikinis in December, I said. His smile tightened. You been going through her stuff? No, I replied. She left it out, the way you leave your life out. You assume nobody will touch it. His nostrils flared. You don't know what you're talking about. I took out my phone and held it up, screen facing him. It wasn't a photo. It wasn't evidence. It was just a blank lock screen. The gesture was enough. You think this ends with you? I said. You think this is a fight between men. It's not. He stared at the phone like it could bite. What do you want? He asked again, but the sharpness was gone. Now it was cautious. I want you to stop parking here, I said, and I want you to stop pretending my marriage is a side project. His laugh was short and mean. Your marriage is already over, man. That line should have hurt, but it didn't. It sounded like a man repeating something he'd been told, something he needed to believe so he could sleep. I leaned in just a little, enough to make him hold his breath. If you come near my building again, I said, you'll keep paying for it. He swallowed. Is that a threat? No, I said. It's a forecast. I stepped back and turned toward the elevator. Behind me, Derek called, You can't control her! I pressed the button and waited. I didn't turn around when I replied. I'm not trying to, I said. I'm controlling me. People expect revenge to look like a punch. They want a split lip and a shattered window, something loud enough to prove the pain mattered. Mine looked like paperwork. Monday morning, I met Martin Diaz again. I sat in his office with a folder on my lap and a face I didn't recognize in the reflection of his framed diploma. You ready? He asked. I didn't say yes right away. I thought about Lila in the bedroom, mascara already on, saying friends like it was a shield. I thought about Derek's car in my garage. I thought about Alyssa's quiet voice in the diner. I'm ready, I said. Martin slid a packet across the desk. Petition, financial disclosures, a request for temporary orders about bills and access so no one could run up debt and pretend it was an accident. Most of this is standard, he said. No drama. You're not accusing her of a crime. You're asking the court to separate your lives. What about the apartment? I asked. If you're both on the lease, you don't lock her out, Martin said. You keep paying what you're ordered to pay. You document. You don't get cute. I nodded. What about my credit? I asked. Freeze it. Already did? Good, he said. Open your own accounts. Close joint cards only if you do it correctly. Notify the issuer, document it, and keep paying agreed expenses. Courts like stability. I stared at the papers. They looked boring. That was their power. Martin tapped a line with his pen. Service, he said. Someone has to deliver this to her. Professionally. Not you. I don't want to be in the same room when she reads it, I admitted. Smart, he said. I signed where he told me to sign. Each signature felt like a door closing behind me. When I walked out, the air felt colder. The sky had cleared, but the sunlight didn't warm anything. It just showed the cracks. In my car, I called Alyssa. Today, I told her, he finds out you know. Alyssa exhaled. How? You'll see, I said. And whatever he says, don't let him move the conversation into a private room. There was a pause. What about your wife? She asked. I stared at the traffic light turning green, then yellow, then red. She finds out I'm not coming back, I said. Not the way she thinks. The HOA holiday open house was supposed to be harmless. Cookies, lights, residents pretending they liked each other for 2 hours. I'd hated it every year. This year, I used it. I set it up like any other event. I hired the caterer. I made sure the lobby looked clean. I told Roy to keep an eye on the guest list and to stand where he could be seen. Then I invited one extra guest. Alyssa Harper arrived at 6:12 p.m., holding her coat closed like armor. She wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a plain jacket, and the steady gaze of someone used to breaking up fights without starting them. My brother, Alyssa whispered when she introduced him. Caleb. Caleb nodded at me. No smile, not hostile, just present. Thanks for coming, I said. Alyssa's eyes darted around the lobby, taking in the holiday decorations, the residents, the fake cheer. Is he here? She asked. He will be, I said. She swallowed. How do you know? I didn't answer because the truth was this. Men like Derek can't resist a stage, and my wife had a stage now too. Lila arrived at 6:37 in a cream coat that cost more than my first car payment. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes, when she saw me, were not. She walked straight to me like we were still a couple and I was just being difficult. What are you doing here? She hissed, low enough that the residents couldn't hear. I work here, I said. This isn't funny, she snapped. I'm not laughing, I replied. Her gaze flicked past me and landed on Alyssa. For a split second, something like recognition flared. Then she smoothed it over with a smile. Alyssa, she said, voice sugary. Oh my God, hi. Alyssa's mouth trembled. Hi, she managed. Lila looked between us. What is this? It's an open house, I said. People come, they eat, they talk. Lila's smile twitched. Why is she here? Before I could answer, the lobby doors opened again. Derek walked in. He wasn't wearing a coat, just a blazer, like he'd come from somewhere warm. He scanned the room, saw Lila, and his face lit up, until he saw Alyssa. His steps slowed. Alyssa stood still, shoulders squared, a hard shine in her eyes. Derek's mouth opened. No sound came out at first. Then he tried to recover, like always. Alyssa, he said, like her name was a misunderstanding. What are you doing here? Alyssa asked, voice quiet, dangerous. Derek glanced at Lila. Lila stared at him like she'd just realized the floor was moving. This is, Derek started. I stepped in, not between them, but beside them, like I belonged in the scene. Derek, I said, calm. Meet Alyssa's brother. Caleb took one step forward. He didn't touch Derek. He didn't need to. Derek's eyes flashed. Who the hell are you? A witness, Caleb said. Lila's voice broke in, sharp. Evan, stop! What are you doing? I looked at her. You told me to stop acting like your husband, I said. So I did. Her face drained of color. Alyssa lifted her phone and showed Derek the screen. A map. A dot. Cedar Gate. Over and over again. Nights he'd claimed he was elsewhere. Derek's jaw worked like he was chewing excuses. "It's not what you think," he said. Alyssa laughed once, the sound small and sick. "That's exactly what it is," she replied. Residents nearby had gone quiet. Conversation slowed, eyes turned. People love a disaster as long as it isn't theirs. Lila grabbed my arm. Her nails dug in. "You're humiliating me," she whispered. I leaned closer so only she could hear me. "You did that yourself," I said. "I'm just moving the lights so people can finally see." Derek stepped toward me, anger rising. "This is between me and Alyssa." Caleb shifted, a half step, a wall without touching. "No," I said. "This is between all of us. You just thought you could keep us separated." Lila's grip tightened. "Please," she hissed. "Not here." "Here is fine," I replied. Alyssa's voice steadied. "Give me your ring," she said to Derek. Derek blinked. "What?" "Give me your ring," she repeated. He stared at her like she'd asked for his hand. "You can't just—" he began. Alyssa held out her palm. "Now." Slowly, Derek pulled the ring off his finger and dropped it into her hand. It made a small sound when it landed, like a coin. Alyssa closed her fist around it and looked at Lila. "You," she said, and her voice cracked on the word. "Did you know?" Lila swallowed. Her eyes flicked to Derek, pleading for rescue. Derek didn't move. The truth came out in Lila's posture before it came out in words. Alyssa nodded as if she'd just confirmed something she'd feared all along. Then she turned and walked out, Caleb following, his hand hovering near her back, but not touching. Derek stood there, exposed under warm holiday lights, while residents pretended not to stare and failed. Someone's phone was already up, filming. I saw the little red dot in the corner of the screen like a tiny warning. Lila released my arm like it had burned her. "What did you do?" she whispered. I looked at her face. Perfect makeup, eyes starting to shine, the first real crack in her control. "I made sure you couldn't rewrite the story," I said. She shook her head fast. "You're crazy, you're ruining everything." "I already packed my things," I said. "Everything else is yours to ruin." Derek took a shaky breath. "Lila," he said, voice low. "We should go." Lila looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Not a fantasy, not a thrill, just a man sweating under bright lights. She didn't move. Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then his face tightened. He looked at me. "What now?" he asked. I smiled, small. "Now you go pick up your car," I said. "It's been towed again." His eyes widened. I told you," I said. "Forecast." For a moment, Derek looked like he might swing at me. His hands flexed, his shoulders rose. Then Roy stepped closer, visible now, security uniform sharp. "Everything okay here?" Roy asked, voice polite but firm. Derek's fists loosened. He swallowed his pride in front of strangers, which is the hardest kind. He turned and walked out without another word. Lila stared after him, breathing fast. Then she looked back at me, eyes wide with something that wasn't anger anymore. It was fear. "Evan," she said softly. "Where are you staying?" I thought about the motel, the thin walls, the cheap shampoo, the quiet. "I'm not," I replied. "What do you mean?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a plain envelope, a twin of the one I'd slipped into her suitcase. Inside was a single card, the new number. I held it out. "If you ever need to reach me," I said, "use that." Her hand hovered, hesitant. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because you're going to need it," I said. She took the envelope, fingers trembling, and opened it. She read the number. She read the note. She didn't panic. Not yet. Because she still didn't know what I'd already done. who I'd already contacted, what I'd already filed. She looked up at me, confused, searching. I leaned close enough for her to smell motel soap on my jacket. "Stop acting like I'm your husband," I whispered back. "Okay." Then I walked out into the cold night and didn't look back. The next morning she called the new number. I picked up. Her voice shook. "Evan, where are you?" "Level 3 of your office garage," I said, "near the stairwell." "What? Why?" "Because we're done talking on the phone," I replied. The line went silent, then clicked. She was already running. I waited in my car with the engine off. The silence down there was thick, broken only by distant footsteps and the occasional car door slamming like punctuation. Lila appeared out of the stairwell 5 minutes later, coat half-buttoned, hair not perfect for once. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She looked like someone whose reflection had finally stopped cooperating. She marched to my driver's window. I lowered it halfway. "You can't just destroy my life," she said, breathless. I looked at her and felt something calm in me that scared me more than anger ever had. "You destroyed it," I replied. "I just stopped being your cover." She swallowed. "Derek says you're obsessed. He says you set him up." I almost smiled. "Of course he does." She leaned closer. "Did you tell them? Did you email my sponsors?" "No," I said, honest. "I didn't have to." She blinked, confused. "You did it in public," I said. "Public has consequences." Her hands trembled against the edge of my window. "I can fix this," she said fast. I'll post something. I'll say it was a misunderstanding. I'll say Alyssa's crazy. I'll say—" "Don't," I interrupted. The word came out low, not loud. It stopped her anyway. "You don't get to call other people crazy anymore," I said. "Not after what you've been doing." Her mouth opened, closed. She looked around the garage like she might find a better argument in the concrete. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, and this time it was real. "You're not like this." I nodded once. I wasn't. She stared at me, breath fogging in the cold air. "What do you want? Money? A confession? Do you want me to beg?" I reached into the passenger seat and picked up a folder. I slid it out the window and placed it in her hands. Her fingers gripped it like it might explode. "What is this?" she asked. "Read it," I said. She opened the folder. The first page was the petition. Her name, my name, a case number at the top, a stamp. Her eyes widened. "You filed?" "Yesterday," I said. Her face went pale. "You can't—" "I can," I replied. And I did. She flipped pages, faster now. Financial disclosures, temporary orders, a polite request that neither of us run up debt in the other's name, a notice about service. Her eyes landed on a yellow slip clipped inside. "What's that?" she whispered. "That," I said, "is proof I changed my direct deposit. Your card payments won't come from my paycheck anymore." Her throat bobbed. "You can't just cut me off." "I didn't," I said. "I separated what was mine from what you were spending like it was yours." She looked up at me, furious now, like panic had finally found a mask. "You're punishing me," she said. "I'm protecting myself," I replied. She shook her head hard. "Derek said—" "Stop saying his name like it matters," I said, and my voice finally sharpened. Not a yell, a blade. She froze. I took a breath and lowered my voice again. "You wanted me to act single," I said. I listened. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You're leaving," she said, and it wasn't a question. I nodded. "I gave notice on the motel this morning," I said. "My things are gone. My phone's on a new number. And from now on, if you need something, you call Martin." Her hands clenched on the folder. "You can't just vanish." I leaned back in my seat. "You vanished first," I said. "I'm just making it official." She pressed her palm to the window edge, voice trembling. "Evan, please, don't do this." I looked at her face, the mascara smudged, the perfect smile gone. the person who used to be my wife and the person who'd been using me living in the same skin and finally running out of room. "You're not scared of losing me," I said quietly. "You're scared of being seen without me." Her eyes filled. "That's not—" "It is," I said. "Because if it was love, you would have checked whether I was still there." She flinched like I'd slapped her, even though I hadn't moved. I started the engine. She stepped back, startled by the sound. I rolled the window down 1 more inch. "In your suitcase," I said. "The envelope is just a number." She blinked. "But this one," I continued, tapping the folder, "is a boundary." Her lips parted. "What about us?" I put the car in reverse. "There is no us," I said. "There's you. There's me. And there's the story you told yourself." Then I backed out slow, careful, tires whispering on wet concrete. She stood there with the folder in her hands, alone in the garage, the sound of my engine echoing like something empty. In my mirror, she got smaller, not because she was shrinking, because I was finally moving. At the exit, I slid my wedding band into the cup holder. The metal looked ordinary, like a coin from a closed arcade. I didn't throw it. I just left it there, proof that I could be gentle and final at the same time. Then I deleted her contact and drove until the city disappeared.